Ida B. Chapter 22. That Saturday, the intruders came to visit. I was sitting on the front porch and I saw a strange car, a big white one, come down the road and turn left at the T, head down to the building site and park. I ran behind our house, around the base of the mountain, and through the woods till I was directly across from their partly finished house. I climbed on an old maple named Norbert, who wasn't talking to me but wasn't giving me a hard time either. I was surrounded by his leaves, and I sat up there so I could watch those people, but they couldn't see me. They were already out of their car, looking around the outside of the house. There was a mom, a dad, a little boy, and a girl who was a bit taller than me and looked real familiar. At first, they were all walking around the house together, and the parents were saying things like, "Oh, Ray, didn't this turn out well?" And "We'll have to talk to the contractor about this." But I wasn't minding them. I kept watching the girl. Then she turned around and I saw her face full on with the sun shining on it too. I had to hold tight to the tree's branches to stay put when I realized who it was. That girl was Claire, the one from my class. The one who asked me if I wanted to play the first day I was back at school. The parents headed to the far side of the lot, and Claire and her brother found the hill of dirt the bulldozer had made. They ran over there, climbed up it, and then tried to see how fast they could run down it without falling over. They were laughing and looking around to see what other kinds of fun they could have, and the whole bunch of them were just plain happy. Nobody, I could tell, was thinking that this land used to belong to somebody else, that there were trees that lived here that had names and were alive, and they got cut down so this house could get built. None of them was thinking that the only reason they were here was because my mama got sick. But I was. Then those kids were climbing the dirt hill. They started wandering around on the land. And pretty soon Claire spotted one of my signs on a tree. "Look at that," she said to the little boy. They both ran over, and she read it out loud to him. "Typhoons known to occur here. Water rats abound." "What's a typhoon?" the boy asked. "It's like a hurricane, but I didn't think they happened around here." They studied my sign for a couple of minutes. Then the little boy pointed to a part of it and said, "That rat is funny," and they giggled together at my rat's pointy nose and buck teeth. I felt my temper go from a simmer to a low boil, just like that. "Hey, there's another one over there," Claire yelled, and they both raced over to look at it. "I like this one better," he said. "Me too, that's a pretty good snake." "Are there really snakes like that around here?" The boy's eyes were big, and he was ready to be afraid. "No," she laughed. "These signs are jokes. They're supposed to be funny." "Oh," he said, and laughed too. "Let's see if we can find some more." And they were off, like they were on a treasure hunt, going from clue to clue, running and laughing and having the best time. They loved my signs. It was like I'd made a game for them, a welcome to the neighborhood game. I went from a low boil to a bubbling over the top, the lids hardly on the pot, furious one in about 2 seconds. Now, you might think that knowing this girl was in my class and remembering that she tried to be nice to me might slow me down or soften me up a bit, but it did just the opposite. For some reason, knowing that the girl was nice and had friends and liked school and had a mom and dad and brother and they did fun things together made everything 100 times worse. Knowing that it was her who was building a new house on my land, and it was her who cut down the trees, and it was her who would be roaming around in my valley, well, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it so much that I couldn't sit still, and I couldn't stay quiet. Claire and her brother got close to the tree I was sitting in, still giggling and talking, and right then I boiled over, and I couldn't have held it back if I wanted to. I jumped down out of the tree, my hands waving and my mouth yelling, "This is not your property. Get out now." And I stood there, my arms raised like a barrier, with my teeth bared and a ferocious expression on my face. They were so surprised they both jumped. Their arms went up in the air, and their eyes and their mouths turned into big O's. The little boy started to cry, and for a second, a part of me felt a little bit bad. But then my new heart told me, no, they're the bad ones. They're the invaders. We are not giving anything else away. And the part of me that felt bad got shut right down. Well, it seemed we were standing there like that forever. My hands were fists now, my knees were bent, and I could hear my breathing, hard and heavy like a ferocious beast. I was not a fearsome beast. Like a fearsome beast. Sorry, I read that wrong. I was not going to move unless it was to attack. Finally, Claire's face changed. Her mouth relaxed and her eyes got smaller and kind of sad. Ida? She asked, like a doe would talk if it could, gentle and soft and a little timid, like a hand extended, palm turned up. And there was that part of me again, the part that felt bad before, thinking it might get a word in. Take it, Ida B., it said. Take the hand extended. But my hard, cold heart wouldn't have any of that mush. No, it yelled, nobody gets in. And my body howled out loud with my face raised to the sky, the fiercest, scariest yell I didn't even know I had in me. You are not allowed on my land. Go away. I slashed and jabbed the air with my fists like they were just itching to pound something. When I opened my eyes and looked at the two of them, the little boy had just turned around and ran away. He almost fell right over because he was trying to run faster than his short little legs were able. And I almost laughed out loud because that's how foul I was feeling. But she was still standing there staring at me. I looked back at her, eyes like slits in my mouth in a sneer, and yelled, What are you waiting for? Didn't you hear me? You do not belong here. She looked right into my eyes with those doe eyes, crying now, not leaving like she was supposed to. I started to think that I would have to do something drastic soon, because I couldn't stand there looking fierce and breathing heavy forever. But before I got too worked up again, she said right to my eyes and my insides, You're mean. And she turned around and walked away. I stood there, fists tight, still breathing like a bear, ready to holler all sorts of things at her. Too bad, or that's right. Remember that, big baby. But right in the middle of my chest where her doe-eyed look ended up, there was a heaviness that slowed me down and stopped me up. I'm not mean. Really, come back, that soft, sappy part of me wanted to say. My rock-hard heart wouldn't have any of it, though. Stop it, it yelled, and there was no more weakness or sad, sorry feelings allowed. I was the protector of the valley, and there was no use for mushiness. When I walked back to my house through the woods and around the mountain, every step I took was heavy and horrible, stomping the ground. Every time my left foot came down, I said, I. And every time my right foot hit the earth, I'd say, one. So all the way home, my steps were beating the rhythm to those words. I won. I won. I won.